game. Obviously, there were great performances that were had. Jalen Hurts was fantastic in the game. He ended up winning MVP. There were a lot of great moments, all pretty much for the Eagles in this game.
It was an Eagles showcase.
I mean, look, Rosa was sitting there watching the game with me.
Yeah.
Look, this is not a rocket surgery, as they say. They couldn't block them. End of story. They couldn't block them. This is not hard analysis. They didn't even blitz. There's 4 guys.
Yeah,
they couldn't block them. And the crazy thing is, a lot of times, I'm going to defend myself here. Because Lord knows, I lost on that game. And I said, look, I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes. Well, this has been free. Last year, made him an underdog 3 times. It's like, when are you people going to wake up? And so I'm saying this is someone who had this thing pegged way wrong. A lot of times, when you're going into a situation like this, okay, there would be great evidence that an offensive line can get absolutely caved in over and over again. That had not shown up like that. It's not like you watch the Chiefs and were like, oh my God, this guy's constantly running for his life. In fact, the opposite was true. Like, Jalen Hurts was the one that was throwing for 30 yards and like they couldn't block the Rams. It was like, what? What has happened? Why all of a sudden did they show up for this game? They couldn't block for 1 second. It was like as soon as that Joker said hike, they were on his ass. And Tom Brady's like, his feet are everywhere.
Yeah, you could tell it made him kind of, got him kind of scared. Like that's the first time.
Oh my God.
That's the first time I've ever seen Mahomes look skittish, spooked, like he was seeing deer.
Oh, you
bro.
know, he was the same way in the Bucs Super Bowl too.
He was like
he was
like,
both of those Super Bowls have both of his Super Bowl losses have the exact same thing in common. They could not block.
I even saw my buddy Kevin Clark. He put this thing up this morning where I thought it was super interesting, where he said after their first Super Bowl win, he went to, after the Foles Super Bowl, this is what he wrote. After the Foles Super Bowl, I went to Philly to do a piece on how the Eagles won with analytics. Someone high up there who loves analytics laughed at me when I told them the angle and said, quote, we are always good because of our trenches. Everything else comes after. Like, you can write about analytics all you want. Yeah. We could talk about game plan and scheme and everything. In the end,
it was
they could not block them. And it led to, because 14 of those points are really the offense's fault. When they went up 27, I turned to Roser and I said, this really should be 13.
Yeah.
I mean, they gave them the pick six, Cooper DeJean for the culture. Big moment on Super Bowl Sunday.
Big moment.
And his birthday.
And do you know, I saw somebody post this morning, he had 7 picks at Iowa. 3 of them he housed.
Wow.
That's kind of crazy, right? This guy's just like a housing. If he picks it off, there's a chance he's going to the house a good percentage of the time. But anyway, that one, and then obviously the other one that they just, handed to them. They handed them 14, like with the other pick, gave it to them within, striking range. And so it's like, even when they were down 27-0, I'm like, their defense is not that terrible. Defense is not that terrible in this game thus far. But I will say, those 4 guys that were up front, they just caved in that offensive line every single time. And Mahomes had no chance. And then even when he did have a chance, he was terrible. Yeah. It was so shocking.
It was bad. It was bad.
It was so shocking to see how bad he was in that game. It was, and then even I think after he had thrown the pick 6, he came back and they showed him on the sidelines, right? And I was like, he wasn't. He wasn't frowning. He was like, all right, we got this. We got this, right? It was like, look, we're down. This is not going our way. But I was like, oh, look at him. Cool, calm, and collected. He's non-pulsed by this whole thing, right? And then he came out and screwed up again. And it was like, bro, this was the pick six.
Yep.
And then he threw the pick six under duress. Like immediately he did it. I'm like, this is like if they would have, I've talked about Jordan before. This is like if they would have showed Michael Jordan after a 10-0 Pistons run, and he's just sitting over there, and he's like, all right, no problem. And then he came back out of the timeout and shot it over the backboard. Like, bro, I thought you were all right.
Yeah.
I thought you were cool.
Look, man.
And I mean, look, it didn't even matter who was, and then even the chances they did have when somebody got open, like Hopkins, just dropped one in the. Oh my gosh.
Tracy McGrady with the Spurs.
Bro.
Oh my gosh, boy.
Grizzlies Marcus Smart.
Too soon.
Too soon.
Too soon.
Oh man.
Too soon.
Too soon. Too soon. Why you gotta do that like that? Too soon.
We thought we were getting Celtics Marcus.
Yeah.
They thought they were getting Texans Hopkins.
Yeah, and he just.
That guy is gone.
Yeah, he dropped that joint.
Texans Hopkins is not a guy anymore.
And he did the walk of shame to the sideline. I was like, yeah, bro, pack it up. It's a wrap. For you tonight.
And they said, I mean, immediately all the nerds were like, oh my God, they're gonna be sick when they see the all 22. Evidently, the whole field is open in front of him. Yeah.
Dang, it was like
Evidently,
it was like
he was
third
like,
and 82 on
yeah. Evidently, he was like, there's nobody even around there. Like, oh, when they're all 22, when people see that drop's gonna look so much worse.
That's
it's like,
tough.
oh God. Look,
that's tough, man.
Credit to them. Look, they have built their team from the inside out. Roser and I were having a long discussion last night as the game got totally out of control. Part of it was, as we were lamenting our own teams, it was like, bro, how do they have so many awesome players?
Bro, they do that.
And the fact that we don't understand, like, the salary cap at all in the NFL. And it's like, oh, we'll go get the Titans' best wide receiver. And, oh, we'll just go get Saquon. Like, how do you have money for all this?
Go get all the defensive linemen.
And then they draft like crazy. Yeah. Just call Kirby Smart and be like, who's your best player?
That's
right?
really what happens, bro.
I know.
They do.
It's not. I don't know how genius it is to just take a bunch of awesome SEC players.
Hey, man, they got to figure it out. Man.
They do it.
Everybody else doesn't do it.
Everybody else doesn't do it. Everybody else somehow doesn't do it.
I found a stat. It said, tells you how dominant the Chiefs were. It said the Chiefs went 1,106 days between playoff losses.
Golly.
Like that tells you how dominant they were, but Eagles really just from the beginning.
Punked them.
They did.
Punked them. Set the tone, bro. Mano y mano.
Listen to this. I saw this one this morning. This guy, Doug Clawson, put this up. He said, the Chiefs' performance versus the Eagles was the only game in the NFL this season where an offense did not run a single play in opponent territory in its first 9 drives.
Wow.
It's never happened, even with like the sorriest team. That is a crazy stat.
Yeah.
Not one play in the opponent's territory in 9 drives.
That's like when LSU didn't cross midfield against Bama.
Right.
Yeah.